If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the... No! 7 times the... Music, gaming, Disney+, Hulu, ESPN+, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment!
Because everyone deserves better.
And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry. Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more. But it's so absorbent, you can use less. So it's always worth it. Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN SportsWrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the...
7 times the...
No!
7 times the...
Music, gaming, Disney+, Hulu, ESPN+, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment!
Because everyone deserves better.
And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry. Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it. Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN SportsWrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the...
7 times the...
No!
7 times the...
Music, gaming, Disney+, Hulu, ESPN+, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment!
Because everyone deserves better.
And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember. They can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin.
Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry. Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
This is the BCSN Pod Zone, your place for the news, views, and conversations about all things related to HBCU athletics. Here are the BCSN SportsWrap, Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, Knights of the Round Table, the pregame show, the Carlos Brown Show, the ONG Strike Zone, and more in one place. We are changing the way you consume HBCU sports, one broadcast at a time.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry.
But my beats, they are hard.
Hello, good evening, and Happy New Year. It's a new year for the BCSN Sports Wrap. I'm Bryan Fulford. That's 80 Drew, and it's a pleasure to be on with you, be on the air with you here the first day of 2023. Drew, Happy New Year, my man. How you feeling this new year?
Same to you, my brother. Same to you. How's it going? It's been a what, last year since we talked to each other.
Yeah, I haven't talked to you since last year. Exactly. There's that running joke. So how many times do you think? How many times do you think we'll say that over the next few days?
It's gonna be worn
So,
out real fast.
yeah, we'll wear the hell out of that as quickly as we can. And yeah, Happy New Year to all of you watching us on YouTube and on Facebook, wherever you're watching us at on Facebook, maybe even Twitter. I don't even know, man. I'm trying to get this, already going into the new year, trying to get the streams. I feel like the guys on Ghostbusters and shit, trying to get the streams right. Don't cross the streams. Don't cross the streams. Well, this stream ain't working right and all this. I don't know, man. He's already starting with a headache going into 2023. But anyway, that's behind the curtain type stuff. Most of y'all out in the front don't really give two flips about. But just the drama of our life. So, want to thank you for tuning in to watch the BCSN Sports Wrap here. AD and I try to do a little recap and a preview, look ahead to what's coming, what was, maybe kind of share our thoughts on the HBCU sports scene as we see it. Want to encourage you to follow the Black College Sports Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at my BCSN1, the number one. You can also follow us individually. You can follow Drew at BCSN Drew on Twitter. You can find me at DRB365. You're liable to get not only hot HBCU takes, but also just hot takes in general. Drew, just kind of while we're wrapping, did you get a chance to watch any football? Any football yesterday? Any of the bowl games?
Oh my God! Did I?
Pretty
Two,
amazing stuff, right?
not one, but two exciting games in football. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium must be a bevy of exciting finishes in college football. So, we had one in the Celebration Bowl. Then we had one last night in the semifinals on a Kick.
Yeah. It at the stroke of midnight, Georgia brings in
It was like
the new year.
11:59:37, I think is what they said when the kick was sailed wide left.
No, I think it was actually perfectly timed. I don't know. I saw somebody's mashup. It might have been a Bleacher Report mashup or somebody's mashup that said it exactly happened at midnight where the kick happened and it went sailing left right at midnight. So it kind of synced in just in time. I thought the timeout that was called kind of messed it up. The timeout by Kirby Smart had kind of messed up the timing, but apparently not. But anyway, interesting, all kinds of angles that you could break in. Yeah, Mercedes-Benz Stadium not only started the bowl season with an exciting game, of course, North Carolina Central beating Jackson State in overtime and all the drama that went into that game, and then they also had the Peach Chick-fil-A Bowl, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl is what they call it, which was a semifinal game. So pretty outstanding way to start in the game in the bowl season for them. And now I don't even know, where is the national championship between my TCU Horned Frogs and Georgia. Where's that game going to be held at?
LA.
In the new stadium, LA, or like in the Rose Bowl?
Yes. No, in the new stadium.
Oh, okay. I thought next year they were going to the new stadium.
No, I believe they're going out there this year.
Okay. So Hollywood. They're going out to Hollywood for the national championship. Well, that should be fun. That'll be fun. America will get to see why the TCU Horned Frogs
are all that and a bag of chips, and why Max Duggan should have been the Heisman Trophy winner. I had a plus 5,000 ticket on Max Duggan, Drew, and I'm still salty that that he didn't get his props as he should have, been the Heisman Trophy winner. But anyway, neither here nor there. Still a little salty about that, Drew. Okay, so as we get into the week ahead, obviously last week we tried to do some 2022 recaps with primarily sticking to football because there's so much that is always happening around football. It would really kind of drown out a lot of the other sports. So in this episode, we will go through some of the top stories from basketball and baseball and just some other sports as well, volleyball, softball, maybe tennis, track and field. I'm sure there's something that we will leave out. So I want to encourage you guys in the chats to feel free to update us, include anything that might have made for a memorable moment from the non-football angle. So this is the non-football show. So anything that happened, not necessarily football related, would be applicable for this show. Drew, as you kind of listen to other recap shows, I know through the course of the week, I know Dr. Cavill's show, we did one for the O&G. Anything that's come out of those shows that maybe you forgot about?
Yeah. Every show has come up with something that has jumped off my mind, fell off the radar, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." Because obviously, a lot of it deals with perspective, where you are and what your interests are. But there are a lot of stories that were out there, and we were even discussing some yesterday that were left off everybody's list, and we were going back and forth with each other as we were trying to get our headlines together for this show. It was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And then here's the other thing, Brian. How many of those stories you were like, was that this year? Was that last year? As these sports years tend to, when you go from sports year to calendar year and try to remember whether it occurred in that calendar year or in an academic year, it gets kind of tough sometimes keeping all that stuff together. And one other thing, Brian, I did have one new vocabulary word that I got in my lexicon this year, Brian.
Okay.
Duopoly.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
I learned what a duopoly was. If I didn't learn anything else this year, I learned what a duopoly was thanks to HBCU Go and those people over there.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little last week. The overwhelming contract with the whole HBCU Go was probably the story or moment. It definitely was one of the top three, I think, of the year. I mean, you could, whether you want to say Coach Prime and the year of Coach Prime, the good, bad, and the ugly, whether you want to include that as one of the moments of the year, because it seemed like every week, every month, there was something. The HBCU Go deal, what we learned about compliance, those are just some of the things that, but I think media rights and understanding, and I still, to this day, Drew, don't think people really grasp media rights because I think people still are comparing, which you should never do. You're comparing a billion dollar industry, SEC, with $1 million industry, which is SWAC. And it's two different things, So I
Night and day.
think night and day. It's night and day, and I think there's also a historical precedent in that as well, which also I think affects the numbers. So I just I think we're still looking for clarity. I think people are looking for their own individual understanding. because I think most of us are visual. And what we want to be able to see, Drew, we want to be able to see numbers. See what it is you can see in the SEC is you can see numbers and you can see the direct impact of numbers, right? You can see the value in the money, and you can see the 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 facilities. You can see the locker rooms. You can see the improvement in recruiting budgets, which allow for them to, you all those things are tangible, but we're still at the infancy stage. So I hope people can, no one's been able to sort of pump the brakes a little bit in this whole thing, as they have, people have sort of argued and fussed about, how much money this is providing, this is giving. Nobody really is sort of. I think what I really wish more people would turn to in 2023 is towards NIL, to be honest with you, because there are opportunities for HBCUs and HBCU schools within the NIL market. Each school, through whether it be alumni organizations, collectives, could be doing more. And why aren't we doing more? You know, that's something that I think, really could be a powerful play in 2023. So it's time to stop talking about it so much, and let's start making it happen for these young people.
Yeah. Well,
Just
Brian,
my
NIL is a good thing. NIL is not for everybody. I mean, who's going to benefit from NIL? The quarterback, the wide receiver, the leading scorer on the basketball team, maybe the hot pitcher on the softball team. You know, maybe if you've got that elite track star, but you're probably talking about 10 to 20 athletes at a university who would benefit from NIL. What we need to look at for our universities is making them more competitive, especially our Division I universities, by being able to increase the money that the athletic departments have so they can give cost of attendance.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who are not familiar with cost of attendance, that is the money that student athletes receive on top of books, room, board, and and meal plans to attend the school. You know, that includes costs such as how much does it cost for you to get from your home in Indianapolis, Indiana, Brian, to Tallahassee, Florida, to go to Florida A&M University. That includes some of the other ancillary costs. Entertainment costs is included in that. You know, can these kids get $5,000 each? Can they get $10,000 each? And you break it up over 2 semesters. Can they get $1,000 each right now, Brian? I'd be happy if these kids got $1,000 each for attending these universities. But let's keep in mind, you're talking 200 to 300 athletes at a university, so that's a nice chunk of change if you're going to do it. So if you had 250 athletes and you were to give them 25 if you would give them $5,000 a piece, well, that's $1.25 million, Brian. That has to be found somewhere. So,
Mm-hmm.
but those are some of the things that we need to build toward, and NIL, as you like it, become the gravy on top of it, because student athletes can't be like the chemistry major, the biology major, the business major, and go out and get a part-time job, because their full-time job is competitive athletics. Their full-time job
Yeah.
is being a student. So they have 2 full-time jobs, whereas a traditional student has a part-time job, focuses on his athletics and on his academics, and then keeps his or her grades up so that they can keep any type of scholarship money that they have. That's just what I would like to see, Brian.
Yeah, I think there is. I think there's room now to start creating some financial models that show some different scenarios. And I think it has to be shown on a school by school basis. Like every school is
What
different.
it
So
costs? What it costs me to go to Florida A&M University is not what it costs me to go to Tuskegee University. One of
right,
those main
right. So I,
reasons is geography, Brian. Let's just deal with that. In Tallahassee, you're in a smaller city. You're in a smaller mid-sized city. In Tuskegee, you're in rural Alabama. If I would have went to Clark private school in Metro Atlanta, just think about my cost of living there, or Jackson,
right.
Tennessee, or Xavier in New Orleans versus a Grambling.
Hmm.
So all that factors in.
Yeah, it does. It's you've already got my mind spinning and working, and I would again. That's why I said I'd love to see it from a school by school perspective. I'd love to see somebody at North Carolina A&T, for example, break down or show some different models of what we could do, of what you could do. And I'm going to push back on something you said earlier. You said that only certain numbers of athletes would benefit. I actually think, yeah, I think that's being low. That's a conservative number. I know that, for example, Florida A&M may have 300 some odd student athletes. I think over half of those student athletes could take advantage of some type of NIL opportunity with the right coordination. I think the right type of coordination would showcase, who these students are, what they do, what they're capable of doing, so on and so forth. And I think there are enough alumni bases that could support uh, student athletes in their ventures. I think there. At the same time that I think HBCUs are doing their research, uh, we've got to be able to do research, and I would like to think we could do the research and progress forward at the same time. That's what I would like to see done. It brings me to one of the first stories that I know we want to mention as we talk about some of the news and notes is the news or the release that came out on December 30th, that the four Power HBCU conferences collective work and responsibility continues. That this came out from and I'm just reading. This is from Norfolk, so this is the press release that came out where it says the commissioners representing the four NCAA HBCU conferences, the CIAA, MEAC, SIAC, and SWAC, have agreed to partner in more collaborative ways to strengthen the value of our HBCU conferences and to protect and amplify the HBCU brand. The commissioners acknowledge the difference in division, size, and makeup, but value that our conferences are the same in our foundation and mission to serve and advance students and athletes at HBCUs. Of course, then they go into citing uh, the power of each brand, the contributions, the economic impact among HBCUs, and they also mention here that over the past 3 years, the four conferences have met and worked together collaboratively to identify immediate and future opportunities that align with our conference strategies. This includes our partnerships with the NFL, Black College Hall of Fame, the NCAA Office of Inclusion Championships, and selective events that support our mission and and student athletes in higher education. So when you read that announcement, Drew, what does that look like to you other than, hey, these are our four commissioners kind of sitting around in a hotel lobby, uh, I was going to say with a good bottle of scotch or brandy, but I don't want to do that to them. But anyway, just our four
Very top shelf.
commissioners.
Very top shelf.
Yes, our
You
four
got so top
commissioners
you're gonna have
sitting
to get a
around.
ladder to get it down.
Yeah, what does that look like in terms of what are some of the things what are some of the first things that you think something like this could yield? Because I'm obviously if I took some time to really think about it I could, but I mean just off the cuff, are there any things that come to mind that you can see, okay, this would be great to do some collaborative work on?
Well, I think. But let's take the two big players. That would be the SWAC and the MEAC. Uh, the SWAC and the MEAC, despite what everyone has said about the MEAC, and we thought the MEAC was dying over the last couple of years. The SWAC needs the MEAC in order to survive. Remember earlier this summer, Brian, we were talking about, hey, let's create this super conference and all this stuff. No, we need two distinct conferences. They two distinct missions, two distinct geographies. And the more they come together, it helps in branding. It helps raise money. It helps raise awareness. Their differences are a conversation. If all of the 20 institutions were in the same conference, would we have some of the same conversations that we have right now, Brian? When it comes to football, when it comes to basketball, probably not.
No.
No, it keeps the news going, keeps the news cycle going, and the fact that we have these two distinct conferences. Now let's take it down to the next level: CIA, SIAC. First of all, you don't think that these two commissioners have seen what has happened above them, the marketing that has happened above them? Heck, the SIAC is the only Division II conference with the ESPN contract for what that's worth. Now, it may not be worth a whole lot of money, but we know there's a stigma comes with the fact that you have an ESPN and you're on ESPN. It's a branding opportunity. But I don't care what kind of contract, media contract the SIAC have. They will never have the glitz and the glamour of the play basketball tournament. But these two can play off of each other. They can schedule these inter competitions. They can schedule these in neutral sites in Atlanta for a SIAC based event, in Charlotte for a CIAA based event, and cross over and do things to increase both their brands and get them out there. And while we're on the subject, Brian, let's not forget about our other conference out there, the GCAC. Hell, did anybody see the deal that they signed? Now, it's not swackish as far as dollar wise, but as far as impact, the deal that the GCAC signed with Urban Edge is just as impactful on the NAIA level as the SWAC deal was with HBCU Go and the SWAC deal was with ESPN. Brian, this, and it's going to be my last point. This year was really a year of change for our conferences because we have not one, not two, but three different commissioners than we had January 1 of last year. Started off with the MEAC. Sonya did not take the job until January, even though she was named in December. She did not take the job until January. She not began her reign until January.
January 1 of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm with you.
Or January 2 of 2022.
Right.
Then Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes took her job of 2022. Then Dr. Anthony Holloman took over the SIAC in September of 2022. So if we want to talk about it impactful, something that happened impactful in 2022, 3 of our 5 commissioners changed hands in 2022.
Good point.
And then you and just take that one step further. What about that Fab 5 over there in the MEAC? 5 women athletic directors in the MEAC. 3 of our 5 commissioners for our HBCU conferences are female. With Sonia Steele, Jackie McWilliams, and Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes. So the year of the woman, the year of the woman in HBCU, and then you had another female took over in the SWAC with Fab U's new athletic director. Have I hit all the new female athletic directors? I believe that's it though, as far as female athletic directors.
Yeah. Well, there might be an interim here. There might be an interim here too at a couple of schools that I just can't think of right off the top of my head. But yeah, you know, now the question is, will that?
And that's in addition to the one female that are already leading.
Will that lead to more visibility? Will that lead to more visibility of female sports, volleyball, women's basketball, softball? What else? You have soccer. I'm trying to think the major 4, track and field. You know what I'm saying?
Got golf. Some women golf teams.
It'll be interesting to see if that will, what that will lead to. You know, will any type of change in terms of our visual intake of women's sports, will it change over the next 2 seasons? You know, because I think if it's going to happen over the next couple of seasons, right? Just as a thought. Let me give a quick shout out to our folks there on Facebook and YouTube. I saw Chuck Hunt there on Facebook. Shout out. Appreciate you jumping in. Tamara T, James Green, David Garner, Champ, Mary 305. Appreciate all you guys on YouTube, and you know, I'm sure there'll be others that'll be coming in as more folks are aware. Hit the thumbs up button. Go ahead and share the stream on your pages. I do want to make mention while we're on headlines and notes, and we're talking about basketball season and things of that nature. Drew, I got to make mention of well, you know, we can get into talking about this upcoming season, but already, you know, we're starting to transition into the end of non-conference season and heading into the conference season, right? And so I came across this article, and I want to make sure I can pull it up here. Just published, I think it was, yesterday on HBCU Sports. And it says HBCU hoops were strong against P5 schools, but is it enough to stay out of the play-in? And so this article, of course, comes from HBCUsports.com, published yesterday, and made note of Joe Lunardi, who is the ESPN basketball analyst who released the latest NCAA tournament projections. And he had 2 HBCUs, of course, projected to make the field of 68. And of course, I mean, obviously with the MEAC and the SWAC, he had Grambling State and Norfolk State predicted as favorites in the SWAC and MEAC, and of course, that's based on their current record right now. And it says here they are positioned either in the first 4 or as a number 16 seed playing a 1 seed when the tournament begins in March. And I think that's what the traditional norm has been. We've broken down on our show many a times why that is, you know, in terms of power ratings and things of that nature. Going into this season currently right now, Grambling has and double check me here on their current record if you can, Drew, if you can pull up the SWAC standings and the MEAC
I've got
standings.
Grambling. I've got Grambling with a 7-5 overall record.
Okay, that's pretty
And
good. They've got wins over.
I'm looking at over the Colorado. Let's see.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on.
Right.
Give me a second. Let me finish.
Right.
Okay, so Grambling, they point out in the article 7-5 with wins over Colorado and Vanderbilt. Now the SWAC as a whole went 3-2 against the Pac-12 in the Legacy Series. I thought they actually went 3-3. So I could be wrong on that, but I thought they went 3-3 because there were 6 games played. Now, the thing that you get into is that you have these, of course, as we get into the basketball season, here's some terminology that you'll have to become familiar with. What is quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, and quad 4? Essentially, among the 360 plus teams, you essentially have the top 75 teams making up quad 1, and then you just basically go the next 75, the next 75, next 75 is quad 2, 3, and 4 respectively. So Grambling with a 2-1 record versus quad 2 teams, most likely that is where Colorado and Vanderbilt fall. 3-1 against games involving quad 4 foes. Of course, I mentioned 0-3. Now, Norfolk State, what did you find out about Norfolk State, Drew? Their current record is at 9-5.
That would be correct. And let me go to. I've got the spreadsheet. I actually did a spreadsheet on this. Here's the problem with Norfolk. Go ahead.
Most notably, Norfolk State non-conference wins over William and Mary and Bowling Green, but Norfolk State is 0-4 against quad 1 teams and a combined 6-1 against quad 3 and 4. What else are we going to add?
And they've got, I believe, 3 wins against quad 0 teams, as I like to call them, games that would not even be counted when it comes to the tournament selection, because those were over non-NCAA Division I opponents.
So technically, their record would be
while
6-5.
While that 9-5 looks good, subtract 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we may see that later on when our rankings come out, Brian.
That's right. Our rankings are coming up. Now, of course, one of the big things that came out of last year, we'll talk about this when we go through our preview here shortly, or review, I should say, was, of course, Norfolk State went back to the tournament for a second consecutive year. And one of the things Robert Jones, head coach of Norfolk State, really felt like his team deserved better than being a 16 seed or being on the 16 line to play against Baylor. He talked to he basically during every coach gets an opportunity the day before to kind of speak to the masses. And that's where, he implored the NCAA tournament selection committee. Well, actually, he did that probably before the tournament was selected. But anyway, guess who's part of the Division I men's basketball committee as the vice chair, and then next year the chair of that committee, Drew?
That would be one Dr. Charles McClellan.
Right, the SWAC commissioner. And one of the ways that this is a case of Dr. McClellan can tell. I'm going to use the father and son analogy here as best as I can, because I recall many conversations where my father would try to advise me on how to do certain things, right? And sometimes I listened.
You had to do it your way.
Sometimes I listened. Many times I did not. Many times to this day, I still don't. But anyway, now juxtapose that with being a teacher trying to tell young people. And so anyway, that, it's a story of my life, right? But he has the formula. He knows the formula on how HBCUs can get themselves off the 16 line. Problem is, what puts us on the 16 line is the fact that we are paying and have to play games against, I'm going to use Florida A&M, for example, against 7 Power 5 schools that are all willing to pay close to $100,000. So that way we can bring
Each
home, each. So that we can bring home close to
$500,000.
$600,000 to cover the budget. Right, to $500,000. Right. So we're bringing home $500,000 to basically cover our budget. Maybe not even cover the budget in terms of that money staying within the basketball fund. Is probably being distributed into the general athletic coffers. Okay, so problem is FAMU has only won 2 games on its schedule, both against, as you like to say, quad zero schools. So essentially, FAMU is 0-11 as we get ready to head into the start of conference season against Bethune-Cookman on Monday. So if you go out and try to say, how do you balance that out? Well, can you get season tickets? Can you get people to buy season tickets to your basketball team when your basketball team is 0-11? Can you
Kind
really
of
get
tough.
people excited about the basketball season when they've never seen them play? FAMU had maybe 2 home games. So
And the first time you see them play, they owe $1 million.
Yeah. So it's a big time challenge. For some reason, somehow the NCAA, the D2 teams have it figured out, but it's a different system over there. It's a different way of life. But it's a big challenge for MEAC and SWAC schools to find the competitive balance to be able to play a good schedule like a Norfolk State or Grambling, and then Grambling played Colorado and Vanderbilt, 2 teams that'll probably be at the bottom half of the Pac-12 and SEC. I don't know it just kind of worked out for them. The point is, if Grambling doesn't do well in the SWAC regular season, it's kind of wasted, is it not? So
Very much so.
that's going to be that's one of the big challenges that, as Dr. McClellan tries to tell teams how we can change our scheduling model to a model that helps us, that helps our conference move out of the bottom 4, because again, we have to move out of the bottom 4 tier. There are 32 conferences ranked. The SWAC and MEAC usually sit in the bottom 4 annually. Sometimes they are the bottom 2, right? So if we don't find a way out of that through wins against mid-majors, you're I don't know how you're gonna get out of it eventually. So
Okay.
you got to
All right,
listen.
Brian.
Go ahead.
I'm supposed to give you I'm gonna leave the team's name off right now. I'm supposed to give you their schedule. I'm going to give you their road schedule, their home schedule. Now, this team is currently 7-9. I'm gonna tell you that much. Would you be excited to go watch this team play? Road games. Let's talk road games. Road games at Kentucky, at George Washington, neutral site games against Wyoming, Buffalo, Belmont, away at Austin Peay, Yale, Hampton, and Virginia Commonwealth. Those are the road games. Virginia Commonwealth and Harvard. Those are the road games that they've played so far. Now, this team managed to get some home games. They've played UDC, Gallaudet, I don't even know who that is, James Madison, Florida International, Mount St. Mary's, LaSalle, at Delaware State. No, excuse me. Delaware State they haven't played Delaware State yet. And LaSalle,
I
all
already
at
know
home.
what we're talking about. I know what we're talking about. Yeah.
And we are talking about the
Howard Bison.
yes, 7-9. They've played more road games than home games. Played a fairly decent home schedule. They've played 1, 2, 3. They've played 6 games at home. 6 out of 16 games at home. Where there are some teams who have even sniffed their gym this year.
Yeah.
And have posted a decent record of 7-9. They've played 2 non-division ones. Of course, they won those 2 games. But even still, against division ones, they've won 5 other games against division ones, Brian. I would be excited to see this team come conference time.
Yeah, I would too. And it's funny you mentioned the LaSalle game. They were actually favored, I think, by a point in the LaSalle game. I think they lost that game by like 2 points, I think. But they were actually a favorite.
80-76. Lost by 4.
4 points. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were actual a favorite in that game, which shocked me. I saw that and I was like, whoa, they're a favorite by 1. I was like, oh, man. And then they ended up losing. So I'm glad, But yeah, Coach Blakeney, I think, is the head coach there for Howard. He's built a good team. They probably do a good job of marketing. There's a lot of schools that they have opportunities to play in that area too, Drew, which I think helps them in terms of traveling. Like I bet if you looked at their travel expenditures and the mileage is much less than probably, I would say, less than 2/3 of everybody in the SWAC. Like if you took all the road games, like average up the travel mileage, maybe we'll do that for next week. Go look at the travel mileage of the non-conference schedule for the SWAC teams. Just take 8 schools off random, right? And I bet you the mileage that Howard has taken is way less, considerably less, because of the number of schools that you have access to there in the Northeast within, 4-state radius.
Virginia, Maryland, D.C., New York, Jersey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. And you can build. I still think there is a. I'm crazy, Drew, but I think there's a grassroots way to increase the visibility and the like that schools have for that fan bases have, that can thus increase season tickets. Like, should every school have a target of bringing in at least 2,000 seats, 2,000 fans rather, season ticket holders?
Depends on what your gym
I
holds.
think I think 1,000 to 2,000 should be everybody's goal. How can you get 1,000 to 2,000 season ticket holders? And then what does that look like? What does financially that do for you, for your school? It's fascinating. I think there's some interesting conversations that we can have during the course of this upcoming month of January surrounding basketball and attendance and season tickets and things of that nature, to get people excited for the basketball season. Drew, before we take our break, can we do the top 5? Can we introduce our top 5 now? Because I think when we come out of the break, we want to get right into the reviews in the next hour. And I worry that we may run out of time and not get to the top 5. How do you feel about that?
If you talk for about another 2 minutes, because I didn't have it queued up and get it queued up, we can do that.
Well, I'll tell you what. Maybe we'll take a break, and if we take a break, give you a chance to get it queued up, then we can go right from the intro of the top five, the new top five for the beginning of the 2023 season, and then we can kind of go into our review of our non-football events. How's that sound? Does that sound like a plan?
6 one way, half dozen other, my brother. Yeah. Okay, I'm loading it up right now as we speak. Yeah, you're the pilot. I'm the co-pilot.
Well, I mean, you're also playing the role of producer. So if you would say, "No, Brian, let's just go ahead and introduce the top five, and then we'll go into the break with a clean slate."
See, I told you to talk for 2 minutes. I've got it ready, my brother.
Okay, so that was me. That was me filibustering. Okay, so then
Yes.
I will start. Then let's do that. Then let's go. Let's go to our debut. The debut of. Let me make sure I pull over a couple things here. Make sure I've got my computer set. Okay, so this is the debut of the BCSN basketball rankings, top five rankings. And the way we do this, we split it up into men and women's. And among each level, we have NCAA Division I, NCAA Division II, and then we have an NAIA division. So that's the one thing about the basketball season. It's 6 different top 5 polls. We don't try to mix these teams together.
Hey Brian, let's do the women. Let's go to break, and then we'll come back with the men.
All right, so let's introduce our women, our top 5 women's rankings. I believe we're going to start with the NCAA Division I. Now, our records are showing their full
give
record,
us your
or is it
opinion.
showing their
So make sure everybody give us your opinion on these in the chat. What you think about these? These are computer rankings. These are not voted on by humans. These are straight analytic numbers that are out. And to make everything simple, Brian, for basketball, everything is based on a 100-point scale. So with the 100 being the best. Yes.
All right. For our number one teams, Drew, are you able to pull up information, like let people know who they beaten, sort of in there when we get to the number one teams? Are you able to supplement that?
I can go ahead and
you can do that.
Pulling that up. Yes.
Okay, here we go. Women's top 5 in NCAA Division I. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna rank them top 5. All right, so here we go. Right off the bat, off the rips, I'll just start down from 5 to 1. You can see Jackson State. Currently record right now is 3-7. They come in at number 5. Hampton University 4-7 out of the Colonial. North Carolina A&T 8-5. That even includes their win today, does it not, Drew? I saw you have 2-0 in conference play.
Depends on what time. Yes, that would have included today, I believe.
Yeah, it does include. So North Carolina A&T the women already out to a 2-0 record in the Colonial. Hampton's is 1-0. They've already started conference play in the CAA. Morgan State of the MEAC with a 7-6 record. And then Norfolk State. Norfolk State has been playing great basketball, 11-3 record right now. What can you tell us about Norfolk State's wins? Who are those losses against, Drew?
I actually have pulled up the men. It could be like 2 seconds. It won't even take me that long.
I will say, here's what I'll say while you're looking that up. I will say Jackson State at one point, I got to go look at Jackson State's RPI.
All right, I've got
it ready. At one point, Jackson State had an RPI that was top 20 in the country. I think their record may have been 2-3. I don't think they might have been right around 500, but their RPI rating was top 20. So when you see Jackson State with a 3-7 record, they're still favored to win the SWAT, and there's a lot of people with the metrics still like Jackson State right now. So that'll be interesting to see what they do during the regular season. Of course, they have that long winning streak when SWAC season starts up here this week. So that new team, but Coach Tamika Reed is still coming into the year
21 in a row.
with 21 in a row from off the previous season. All right, so tell us about Norfolk State,
Yeah.
Drew. Good wins, bad losses.
All right, I'm gonna just go get rid of the 3 losses. Go and get those out the way. Lost to Penn State in game 2 of the year, 61-67. Lost to Old
Close game.
Dominion December the 11th. That was a 65-44 score. And they were blown out by Alabama 92-30 just before the Christmas break. That would have been on the 18th. Now,
Okay.
they're
Good
big
wins. Good
victory.
wins.
Good wins. Good wins. It's interesting with their schedule. They've got some names on here, but the teams that they have played have not been as highly ranked. But I will go over some of those, the teams that are currently over 500. They beat a College of Charleston squad back on November 13th. College of Charleston is currently 6-5. They beat Marshall on November 23rd. Marshall is currently 9-4. That was a neutral site game. They beat Campbell, who sits at 7-6 currently. That was on November 28th. And those are their wins against teams that are currently over 500. They beat a William and Mary. They beat UNC Wilmington, New Jersey Institute of Technology. They beat Hampton, their mandatory HBCU game. Tennessee Martin, who sits at 5-8.
Ohio Valley. Yeah. Pretty good.
And
How many? Any
they beat
quad zero?
They beat Purdue, Fort Wayne.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Whoa. They beat who?
Purdue, Fort Wayne.
Okay, so you started that by saying Purdue, and I was like, huh?
No,
Yeah,
Purdue,
okay.
Fort Wayne. Purdue Fort Wayne.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right. They beat Appalachian State. And the quad zero win was against VUL.
Okay, so they've only played one quad zero game.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive. So technically they'd be 10-3.
10-3.
By the division.
10-3 for the selection committee.
Hey, that's pretty
good. But most
good.
of those are quad. Let's see, quad 2 victories.
2s and 3s.
They've got like 2 victories. And quad 4 victories. They've only got 1, 2, maybe 3 quad 4 victories. So everything else is quad 3.
Yeah, so that's a good start to the season. Great non-conference. I mean, when Norfolk State has double headers, they should be packed. The men and women, when they get ready to play, that should be a point those are. If you can't sell season tickets for that this upcoming year, man, you got a tough market down there in Norfolk. But people should want to go watch the men and the women because you got 2 good ball clubs right now there at Norfolk State. That's good for you, Norfolk State. All right, let's go over to the Division II level, women. Division II. This is always a fun division, Drew, because I think there are some really competitive teams at this level, and they're not just beating up on each other. Okay. So as you can see, we got a host of teams that are in the hunt that missed out on the top 5, like West Virginia State, Central State, Claflin. Claflin and West Virginia State both have good records, 8-3. You see Winston-Salem, Kentucky State. Number 5 is Miles College, 7-2. Now they've already started playing conference games in the SIAC.
All Division II level in general. All Division IIs pretty much have started conference play.
Yeah, so Miles is 7-2 overall, 4-1 in conference play. Lane College, we don't usually see Lane women basketball in the polls, but they are number 4, 8-2 overall, 4-1. Savannah State, a team that we'll be talking about here coming up as we recap the past year. 8-2 overall, 4-1 in conference. I believe they have, by my count, an 18-game home win streak going right now. Savannah, I think they're even ranked number 20 nationally, number 7 in the region. They might be the only ranked team nationally from other polls in our top 5. Fayetteville State out of the CIAA, 7-4 overall, 3-0. I believe Fayetteville State, their women won the CIAA last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And they are just behind Tuskegee. Tuskegee has, over the last couple of years, they have had one of the top 2 or 3 programs in the SIAC. 9-3 right now, 6-1 in conference play. So you look at those point totals from 89 to 83. Not much of a gap there from 1 to 5. What can you tell us about Tuskegee and their record so far, Drew?
Tuskegee had an unexplainable loss to Albany State to open up conference play, and they lost to Albany State 68-60. That was in a non-conference matchup. The 68-60 loss to Albany State. In the game that counted, they blew Albany State out to water 85-40.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. The other 2 losses, they lost to Clayton State just before the breaks as 84-77. That was on the 19th of December. And they lost the game to our alma mater, Brian, Florida A&M. My one alma mater lost to my other alma mater. For you, your only alma mater. 77-75 in a game realistically that Tuskegee should have won.
Yeah, did that game go overtime?
Yes, it did. Tuskegee should have won that game in regulation, if I remember that correctly. But other than that, big win. They defeated Columbus State, who's currently sitting at 7-3 right now, 74-57. Soundly defeated Columbus State. But other than that, and they defeated Savannah State, who was the number 3 ranked team in our ranking, 78-62. Other than that, it's been Tuskegee taking care of business against teams they're supposed to take care of business against.
Oh, that was a big game, 78-62. That was at Tuskegee. So the rematch will be appointment television.
Rematch. No rematch.
No rematch. So one game, huh?
One game. They will not play again unless they see each other in the tournament.
Oh, that's even better. Even better.
Because that's cross division. Cross divisions only play once. Only required to play once.
All right. Good deal. Good stuff. Let's hop over real quickly to the NAIA division. Another competitive level.
And Brian, I do stand corrected. That first game with Albany did count. That's the one loss in Tuskegee's conference record. So that did count as a conference loss.
Okay. NAIA. In the hunt, you've got Fisk University, 5-4. Xavier, who we're always used to seeing Xavier in the top 5, but I'm sure at some point they'll find a way in there. 7-3 currently right now, 2-2 in the Red River. Okay, so conference play has already started for some of these schools. As you can see, number 5, Langston. Coach Harrod leaves Talladega, goes to Langston, and they just, what an outstanding coach. Does a great
Langston
job.
Langston with the most wins among our HBCUs at this level. Actually, the second most wins overall amongst HBCU women programs. Only trail the Norfolk in number of wins.
Yeah, 5-2 in the conference play. That's in the
Sooner.
Is that the Sooner? Yeah, the Sooner.
Yes.
Sooner Athletic Conference. So that'll be interesting. Rust College. Rust, who was our national champs from a year ago, 7-3. They haven't started playing the GCAC, but we'll be keeping an eye out for Rust. Florida Memorial, FMU, down there in Miami Gardens with a 9-3 record, 4-1 in the Sun Conference. Pretty good start for them. Wiley College, 9-3, 0-1 though in the what is that the Red? Is that the Red River?
Yes, Wiley would be in the Red River.
Okay, and then coming in at number 1, Philander Smith, GCAC. I think they were co-regular season champs last year. I think they lost in the championship game to Rust, if I'm not mistaken. They are 9-2 overall, 1-0. So what can you tell us about Philander Smith and their season already, Drew?
And NAIA is a little bit tough. One thing about the NAIAs will play Division twos and Division One teams in order to get games in. And a lot of Division ones like to schedule NAIAs for a quote unquote easy victory. So just keep that in mind when we talk about some of these games. All right. Speaking of them against Division ones, they have played UAPB. Lost to UAPB 84-45. Lost to Faulkner, who is always a national power on the NAIA level, 74-70. And lost to Central Methodist, 62-51. Here's one of their big victories, though, Brian. They actually defeated Langston, 76-62. Okay. Defeated Mobile. Another HBCU victory. Defeated UVI, that's Virgin Islands, 67-36. Defeated Wiley, 99-64 in the conference matchup. So those are some of the major victories that Philander Smith has had. Did I mention Mobile?
No, you did not.
Okay, yeah. They defeated Mobile, who is also usually in the hunt nationally in AIA, 63-60.
All right, good deal. Let's do this. Let's take a break, come back, and let's start to get into the review of our non-football year in review, and then we'll also break into finishing out the show with our men's top 5 as well. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap with Brian and AD. We'll be back in just a moment.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready, because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplify Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplify Development Services.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell them mama hungry.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
It's like a loot machine. Going around town, trying to get down. It's like a loot machine.
All right, here we go.
Happy New Year. Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and AD here. We promise in this show to recap some of the top non-football events and stories from 2022. And of course, if you missed our show from last week, you can always go back and watch that show on YouTube, or even better, go listen to the podcast version of the show on the BCSN Pod Zone. That's BCSN Pod Zone, available on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, everywhere you download podcasts and more. Go download the BCSN Pod Zone, turn on notifications and things of that nature. Looking at a message here from James Green. Why is FAMU Athletics not included basketball season tickets along with football season tickets? I want to make sure I saw that whole message there. Okay, so the question was, why is FAMU Athletics not included basketball season tickets along with football season tickets for individuals who donate $1,000 or more to the Investment in Champions Fund? For those of you who aren't familiar, the Investment in Champions Fund is for FAMU, that is sort of their fundraising. It's a fundraising arm for the athletic department, which is supposed to have different perks and things like. Honestly, James, because it's not organized very well to do that. I hate to say it that way, but it should. It would be nice if that were the case. It would be nice if they had a system of managing that kind of stuff, so that yes, included in your investment in champions package is yes, you're getting season tickets not only to football but basketball. That would be your move. But then again, what's the value of season tickets? Let me ask you, Drew. FAMU will only play, let me see, 9 home games, SWAC, and 2 non-conference. What's the value of that ticket in your mind?
Considering it's
One ticket.
maybe one ticket, I think it's like $10 to get in to a game at Florida A&M University. Let's just say it's
Is it 10? Really? Is that low?
10, 15, something like that. It's not expensive.
Shouldn't be lower than
It's really
$20 for college. For college basketball at the Division I level, it should not be lower than $20. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Would you pay $20 to go see FAMU men and women play?
You have to create the value. Yes. Look, well, first off, you have to create the value. You have to create the value. It's this. Okay, watch this.
Okay, let me ask you this. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you go first.
No, go ahead, because I got a cough.
Okay. I really you just really lose my train of thought. But the big thing is, do you want butts in the seat to create the atmosphere, or you trying to maximize the couple of dollars in the seat? I'm always at the point I'm going to charge a lower price to get more butts in the seat, and to hopefully make up for it either at the concession stands or with merchandise sales. I'd rather have a packed house and get more people get money out of people that way than to charge you all that money up front and then you not have any money once you get in there. Look at what Six Flags did and why Six Flags is going bankrupt. They raised their admission prices, and all of a sudden, yeah, the couple of people who are coming in are spending more, but they're making less money because they raised their ticket prices to the point where they're trying to value it as something that it's not. It's not Cedar Fair. It's not Disney World. Why are you raising your prices to Cedar Fair, Disney World prices? I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I mean, I'll counter it and say this is a college. You're not high school. If the high schools are paying $5 to $10, you can't charge the same price at a high school game. You can't. I'm sorry.
But if I put the season ticket package together, I'm probably doing that at about maybe a $10 per on the season ticket package. I may on an individual, I may hit you for 15 on the individual. But at a season ticket package, on the season ticket package, $100.
No, there's
10 games, $125. $125 plus, because you don't need a parking pass unless I'm getting something in a private booth. There was the value. I might as well pay you the $15 at the door and come to the 3-4 games I really want to see.
$150 and some drink coupons at every game. I don't know.
I don't know. I pay the $15 at the door and come to the 3 games I really want to see. Versus if I buy that season ticket package, I'm gonna give away. You got 10 home games, Brian, maybe 11 home games. I'm gonna give, since I already paid for it, I'm gonna give the other 7 away. Y'all done already got y'all money. Them other 7 that I'm giving away, they gonna go in there and spend $20 at the concession stand. They gonna go in there and buy a $15 or $20 t-shirt. Go ahead and get my money up front. Cause I know I gotta work on the 3 of them nights. I'm sorry. You still there? Lost your volume, Brian. Lost your volume. Mic check 1, 2. Brian, we can't hear you. So this is what we're going to do, Brian. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm going to take a break while we try to get your volume situation solved. I don't know what happened there. So you're listening and watching the BCSN Sports Wrap with Brian and AD. We'll be right back after we get these audio issues taken care of.
It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the pregame.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
At CDM.
Move through. All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and AD here. As Drew said, I must have been about to give a BS response, and the computer just took me away. This is like, nah, we're not even gonna let you get that one off, brother. We're not even gonna let you get that junk off. Any of you guys out there in your fantasy league championships? Are you playing for a fantasy league championship in football? Are you in the, maybe in a third place game that's worth some money? Yeah, I'm pretty, as I look at my shambles of a season, a great season, once again ruined by one bad week and then another consecutive week. This is the part where I hate fantasy football, Drew. I have a good year, and then I get to the last 2 weeks, and it makes me hate that I'm even in it. I hate the fact that I'm even in fantasy football. I like winning. I'm like Mike Singletary. I want winners. I want to win. And save it. If you're one of those people that say, oh, you're not really in control of screw you. You don't understand fantasy football. So just this conversation doesn't even apply to you. Just living your life of reality and leave us fantasy sports players alone, okay? But for those who know, who can empathize with me, there's nothing more painful than having a good team, getting to the Final Four, and then your guys just crap the bed on you. Like Justin Palmer of the Chargers. Really, bro? 0 points? 0 points? While Cordero Patterson sits on my bench with 17. Really? Bro, it's the playoffs. Show the F up. Anyway. All right, Drew. So let's get into talking about top basketball, baseball, any other stories from the past year that we want to get through. So we got a pretty decent list. Now we didn't do top 5 here, or should we? Let's do top 5, Drew. That way we got a whole list of things let's do top 5. Okay, let's take. We got the list here, the list in front of you, the list in front of me. Let's go top basketball story from 2022. What do you got?
Wait a minute, I got to pull up my. You want me to go with number 1 or number 5?
No, let's start from the top. Hell, let's just in case we run out of time and we get tired or something. At least we said we got the top. If we only make it to 3, then we make it to 3. But let's see if we agree with the top story.
My top story would be Talladega making that run in the NAIA and getting to the national championship game. Kind of hard to beat that.
Men.
Talladega
men, huh?
Yes, I'm going with Talladega men.
That's pretty good, Drew. I think that was my number 2. I think that was my number 2. I think number 2. It's number 1 if they win, obviously, but I think whenever you have a case of perfection, I think perfection and a championship sort of trumps it sort of gives it like a hair of a nudge forward. You know what I'm saying? So for me, my number 1 was Jackson State women's basketball team going a perfect SWAC season. I think they finished by the time they went 18-0 going into the SWAC tournament. Had to battle 3 very tough opponents, and then had to also win the championship against their arch rival, Alabama State, in a sort of a rematch. So going 21-0, and they got a 14 seed, Drew, which, usually you expect an HBCU to get you expect them to get a 15, 16, but I'll tell you what, the fact that they got a 14 seed, and many people thought they might get an 11 seed, but I think once we did the numbers and once we kind of looked at the standings and the SWAC, you kind of realized they weren't getting higher than 14. What made it sort of controversial is who they matched them up against. They matched them up against Kim Mulkey and her LSU Tigers on the road at LSU. Obviously, they could say maybe that was regionally based, but they gave LSU all they wanted, man. And actually, did they not have the lead in that game, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Yeah.
With about 5-6 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Pretty much going into the last media timeout, they had they were either in the lead or like within maybe 1 possession. I know they had the lead going into the 4th quarter.
And that might be another reason why I moved them a slight notch over Talladega, because Talladega was playing a team that they of all the teams that Talladega just could not find a way to beat, it was that Loyola team, and that Loyola team just had their number. They played them they're both from the same conference, so
Correct.
you played them 3 times previously. That was the only loss. Yeah, so that was their only loss all year. It pretty much was to Loyola. They beat everybody else some 30-something games. Only team they could not figure a way to beat was Loyola, and you would have thought hopefully they could have got it done in the championship of all places, but it wasn't meant to be. But still a great run for Chris Wright in Talladega, and shout out to Coach Tamika Reed of Jackson State. Misha Williams-Holiday ended up being selected 3rd round, pick number 25 in the WNBA draft. So I kind of put that right there with Jackson State in that was a sort of a great cherry on top of a great season. So where did Jackson State run for you? Where'd that run fit for you?
Oh, that was definitely my number 2, and I recalculated some things, Brian. Jackson State women have won, including postseason, have won 40, consecutive SWAC games, dating
No.
back, yes,
Really?
dating back
Yes.
to the
Yep.
loss against Alabama State in
Yep.
2021.
Early 2021. That was like first week of the season.
Second game of the season.
Yeah.
They
Yeah. I
had
knew it
run
was.
off.
I knew it was real early.
They read off the last 13 in SWAC play. They won
Yep.
they won 3 games in the tournament that year, so they won 16. Then they
Yep.
won 18 in a row regular season, and then an additional 3 last season in the tournament. So 40 games in a row for Jackson State women. Now you got me thinking about it, Brian, but national champion
Ooh.
over conference champion. I've got to go with the national championship game.
Okay. Hey, I can't be mad at that. What's your number 3? This is where it gets interesting. What's your number 3? A lot of interesting choices here. What's your number 3?
Uh
Come on now. Not like we didn't study
I,
this
I,
before, talk about this.
I've got to go with
But these are stories. These are stories.
yes.
So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be all roses.
S, SIAC basketball. Men and women getting multiple teams into the tournament. I'm gonna make that my number 3 because
Okay. Four
we see how
SIC teams make it to the tournament.
we see what typically happens to us, and we
Yeah.
tend to get left out. So not only for us to get our conference champion in, but another at-large team. So yeah, I like that. I think I'm gonna use that for my number 3.
My number 3 story is I'm going to say it's the upset of Savannah State in the championship game of the SIC Women's Championship. Savannah State,
On the
we talked
SIAC
about,
last year.
we talked about teams that are hard to beat, and just that one team that one team that gives you trouble. The one team that gave them trouble was Benedict. They were 27-1 heading into the SIC championship game. Let me repeat that. 27-1. The one loss came on the road to Benedict College. Now, they turned around and beat Benedict at home. And currently, they have like an 18-game home winning streak. We had the fortune of calling a few Savannah State games last year. That team was, I thought, Drew, as complete a team as I've seen. They had bigs, they had wing shooters. I was shocked that they would lose a game in the fourth quarter up 10. But I shouldn't have been shocked because of who it was, the defending SIC champs, and Benedict College team that had the reigning player of the year in Ayanna Bay. That team, 10-point deficit. They ended up beating Savannah State 71-69. I think there were even some free throws late in the ball game that Savannah State missed, which, I mean, heartbreaking if I'm not mistaken, how that kind of went down the street. But that was an upset of seismic proportions, because we were talking about Jackson State all along, Drew. The next team that we were talking about, very much like this year in football, where we talked about Jackson State and Benedict College. Last year in women's basketball, we were talking about Jackson State and Savannah State. I mean, that was how strong of a season Savannah State was having. And, they beat some good teams. And they just couldn't. They just lost to Benedict. And then they got, I think they ended up as an 8 seed, when probably had they won, they would have ended up maybe like a 4 seed.
Correct.
Might have even hosted, or at least
they would have been regional number 1.
They would They would have had a better opportunity against a better opponent, and they got walloped in the first round of the playoff. It was their very first appearance in the NCAA Division II tournament. So all of that to be said, Coach Cedric Baker and that Savannah State team had a great year, but that was a tough loss, and I don't think that team went into the NCAA tournament with the right mindset. They ended up losing, so uh, they're off to a good start so far this year, as we see, and it'll be interesting to see how they perform in 2023. But that was one of my number 3 story of the year. Let's go to number 4. What do you got for number 4?
You already took one, so I'm trying to go with something different. Texas Southern and Norfolk repeating as conference champions.
Okay.
I know. I will group those together.
That's fine. Because that was probably going to be my number 4. So that's good. Yeah, Norfolk State won the regular season, and then won the MEAC as the number 1 seed. Texas Southern was actually very much like the year before. They weren't the 1 seed 2 seasons ago. They were like the 3 seed. Alcorn won the regular season as the 1.
Yes.
Right. And then no, it wasn't Jackson.
State?
It was
no, that was 2 years ago with Jackson State.
Yeah. So
no,
yeah,
I don't remember who it was.
No, you're right. It may have been Texas Southern. Texas Southern may have been the 2 seed. But anyway, they ended up defeating. They did defeat Alcorn in the championship. I do know that. And so yeah, that was my number 4. And let me see. Did either of those teams win a game in the play? Let me see. So Norfolk State did not have to go to the play-in.
And they lost the opening round.
They lost in the opening round. I believe Texas Southern did go to the play-in again, and they won again. So Texas Southern with another tournament win, 2 consecutive years of tournament wins for Texas Southern in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. All right, what do we got for number 5, Drew? What do you got for your number 5?
It's kind of pick your poison on number 5, but I'm gonna go off the radar. Alabama A&M finally opening their new on-campus arena.
Okay. Interesting. Any particular thoughts on? I mean, what when you pick?
Well, maybe some of these games that we're talking about, where they go out and play other people, maybe they can get some people there to come in and play in a decent sized arena for a mid-major. And probably more important for Alabama A&M, opportunity for them to bring some money into the school by hosting the high school playoffs in that arena, the regional playoffs there for the state of Alabama, as I believe is currently in that region in Florence, Alabama. So maybe they could get that over there and create some revenue opportunities there for the university.
My number 5, this was a toss-up for me because I want to give shout out, and so this is if you allow me to do this. This isn't my number 5. This is my honorable mention. Honorable mention to Howard women basketball. Howard women ended up winning the MEAC tournament and advancing to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2001. Of course, if anybody recalls, the previous year they lost on a last-second buzzer beater to North Carolina A&T, and so they missed out on going the previous year. Well, this year, as the 1 seed, they won, but that wasn't my number 5.
And they won their playing game also.
Thank you. Good point. Yeah, Howard won their playing game. Yes.
Before they lost very handily to South Carolina.
Right. Good point. So my number 5 story of the year was the fact that 2 coaches at 2 highly successful programs in the NAIA both packed bags, went west
to the same place,
to the same school, and
now
now
they're doing the same thing.
and doing the same thing they were doing. And I'm talking about Chris Wright, formerly of Talladega men's basketball with the Langston men's basketball program. And then literally a week later, Kevin Harrod, who was the former AD and women's basketball coach at Talladega, he went to Langston as the now women's coach.
Only got one job now.
And he's doing the same. So, I mean, look, that was a big time score for Langston. You basically plucked. I mean, and Talladega, Drew, in our polls the last 2-3 seasons, who's always been consistently in the top 5? It's been Talladega men, Talladega women.
Talladega and Xavier, men and women, always
and
in the top.
Consistently, right? And now, guess who's now floating around in Oklahoma in the Sooner Athletic Conference, shooting up the Wild West? None other than our good friends, good friends in the program, because they'll come on the show anytime we want. And so, Coach Harrod, Coach Wright, I think one of them's unbeaten right now, if I'm not mistaken. It might be a spoiler alert that I just gave out, but
Langston men. I mean, it's no. We already seen what the women are. We already saw the women at 10-3. So
yeah. So that I thought that was a big time story. You know, it kind of was like, whoa, you just went to the championship game and now you're leaving? What the? But anyway, props to Langston and hopefully Langston University and the alumni base, they are got to be excited over what they have, what they brought in. So that was a big time get. Any other basketball stuff you want to mention? I do want to mention it was pretty big for MJ Randolph to be named the SWAC offensive player of the year from Florida A&M University. I thought that was pretty big. Any other basketball notes you want to make mention of?
Can I brag on something about FAMU in their first year in the SWAC?
Oh yeah.
First year in the SWAC, FAMU has the defensive player of the year in football, player of the year in basketball, player of the year in volleyball. All on campus at the same time.
Yeah. What a magical year. What a magical year.
Yeah. And speaking of, and I'll go ahead and get this out, FAMU volleyball winning, Dominic Washington winning back-to-back player of the years in the SWAC volleyball, and FAMU volleyball winning back-to-back championships in SWAC volleyball. I know. So there's another story.
Yeah.
But that's under the miscellaneous category. Let's get to some baseball.
Baseball. All right. Top 5. All right. I think we unanimously came up with these 5. So I think it's a matter of how we rank
them.
Ordering them. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, here's the crazy thing, Brian. I was actually at 3 of these 5 events.
You were?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
so I may be a little biased.
3 of them are championships. 3 of them are championship games. 2 of them are individual performances. When it comes down to individual performances, Drew, I think when you're measuring performances versus a team thing, I think you have to come from the factor of how likely are we to see what we saw? Or did the drama, man, this is hard. This is going to be hard to say top 5. Okay.
I'll start with my number 5.
Number 5. You're number 5. Go ahead. You're number 5.
You may shoot me for this one. Shabar Page with the perfect game is my number 5.
Okay. Why is it number 5?
Well,
I think I know why.
Well, I and I hate to say it, but it was against Alcorn, and we know Alcorn did not have a good season in baseball. Period.
No,
Just
one of the worst
coach
teams, worst
coach
seasons
took
this year.
coach took the job late. Didn't have a chance to recruit. Didn't have a catcher. So
Right.
if there was any
Tough.
team that this could be done against, this was Alcorn. Alcorn was like the version of the 62 bets. So
Yes. Great analogy.
that was one way. But even still, you still have to have your good stuff on the day.
Yeah.
And let's be real, baseball, you can luck into a hit.
Yes.
You could drop a bunt single down into a hit. And for this to be this is not a no hitter. This is a perfect game. So for no one to make a fielding error, a throwing error, and that means you either had to strike them out or get balls hit directly at people. You know, that is a feat. I'm not discounting that at all. I don't care what it is, but you have to be lucky in addition to being good in order to throw a perfect game.
I'm gonna agree with you there. Agree with you here. Shamar Page threw 84 pitches in his perfect game. He had 13 strikeouts in the process. That game only went 7 innings because of the run
It was a
rule.
7 inning, and that was the other thing. It was a 7 inning.
Yeah,
it was
the score
perfecto
was
versus a 9
16
inning.
to. Yeah, it was 16-0. And I think this was Grambling hosting this game. So obviously he faced 21 batters, struck out 13, 16-0 was the score. So yeah, I mean, but as you said, you know, he got his teammates got off to an easy lead, and of course teams were teeing off on Alcorn, you know, quite a bit during the season. So it still was a perfect game. I think it was one of the only perfect games thrown in baseball. I think Page ended up being the SWAC pitcher of the year. He also went on to be a NCAA All-American, second team. I don't recall if he was Black College Nine's pitcher of the year. But he definitely and I don't know, is Page coming back? What's his eligibility status? Will we see him this upcoming year?
That I do not know.
I'm doing a quick look here to see if he's on the 2022 roster. That was 2022, so who knows? He may be. Well, he was a grad student, so maybe he may
Yeah,
have
he's done.
exhausted all of his eligibility as a grad student. So, Shamar Page, number 5, Grambling. Number 4, Drew. Okay, let me go number 4 then. Let me go number 4.
Okay.
I mean, you tell me whether you agree with my number 4. I'm going to go the SWAC baseball championship game as my number 4. Now, this was one championship game. This is why hint. This is why this is number 4. It was one game, but the one game went 14 innings, was played in 4 hours and 53 minutes. Alabama State had to essentially outlast. I think they played Southern, who was going for a second consecutive title. Alabama State and Southern had to exchange the lead, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of times. It says here, I'm reading a recap here. Alabama State and Southern swapped the lead throughout the game, including in the 13th inning when both teams scored to force the game into the 14th, where the Hornets made one more play than Southern.
Game ended on a double play.
Yes. Ended on a double play. Yep. So yeah, it was but pretty much from the 7th inning to the 13th inning, there were no scores, no runs. You had runs in the 7th, nobody scored, just great pitching, great defensive play, all until you got to the 13th when you had Trenton Jamison reached on an infield error, allowing let me make sure I get the name right, allowing McIntosh, give me McIntosh's first name here as I quickly look, Kyler McIntosh, allowing him to score from third. That gave Alabama State a lead. Then in the bottom half of the 13th, Nava Sanchez grounded into a double play, allowing a run to score. That was 5-5. And then Corey King doubled home the game, what would turn out to be the game-winning RBI to give Alabama State a 6-5 lead. And then, as you said, it took a double play to end the ball game. So that was, I think, the SWAC tournament in that final weekend was some unbelievable baseball. Unbelievable. Nearly 5 hours in that championship game. It was, for me, it was only number. I gave it number 4, Drew. And I see you're shaking your head. You disagree. What's your number 4?
Well, I was there, Brian. There's no way I can put that number 4 because I was there for all. When I say all of the drama, you got to remember that whole tournament itself was remarkable, especially when you consider the fact that the tournament started off so dismal with all the rain early in the week, forcing games to be played in multiple locations on that Friday, and people's pitching got out of whack because of the rain outs and rain delays and everything else throughout the tournament. Brad, let's back up.
It really came down to the team who had
the semifinals game.
The pitching.
The semifinal game between FAMU and Southern was also a doozy the night before. And then that game, Brian, what you had to be there to understand, there were people making business decisions during that game. What I mean by business decision, I got this flight scheduled to be out at so and so o'clock. I need to get to the airport, but I don't want to leave this game because this game is that good. Or I've got to be here at this game to handle this obligation post-game, and this game won't end.
Right.
So people were literally making business decisions, and I was watching them making business. Heck, I was supposed to take somebody to the airport that night after the game. That person wound up canceling their flight and catching a lift the next day. Because I believe I went home that evening. Did I go home that evening? I believe I wound up going home that evening, and so it was a remarkable game. That's all. That's all I can say about that.
So you didn't move. Okay, so what is your 4 then? And tell me what number you moved into.
I actually put that at my number 1.
Oh, no, wow!
I've got to put it at number 2. Check that. I'm gonna put it at number 2.
Okay.
Put that at my number 2. That's my number 2.
Wow,
my number 4 would happen to be Braden O'Connor. Braden O'Connor breaking the stolen base record for the most steals. On senior day, on his last game, he broke the stolen base record. 97 steals in one season. The previous record was 96, set in, check this, Brian, 1987. A 35-year record. So I've got, and this is on a team that O'Connor was all Benedict had offensively.
Thank you.
They were 5-42. So They were 5-42. So for him to get this individual feat was tremendous. So
Say that again,
I've got to
Drew.
put that up.
That's why I ranked it higher than 4. Because I told you sometimes the individual achievement just means that much more. And he was the only. You came to the ballpark to see whether O'Connor was going to steal a base. I mean, mamas and daddies are going to come to the ballpark. I get it. But the casual fan was probably only showing up to the ballpark to see, well, is Brandon O'Connor going to steal a base today?
And Brian,
5-42 record.
He had to steal 4 bases on the last day of the season in order to get the record.
That's what
that
I'm saying.
means he had to at least get on base twice because you can't steal 4 bases at one time.
Hey, here's the box score in this game. Now, this game went 9 innings, Drew. I don't know how this game went 9 innings when the final score is 23-1, but it went 9 innings. Okay, I'm just put it at that. Okay,
but if it's a Sunday single, it'll go there. They'll go all 9. Only time they go. Only time they will go 7 is if it's a double.
So he was fortunate that this was a Sunday single because on April 30th, Savannah State scored 23 runs on 17 hits and committed 4 errors. Benedict scored 1 run in the bottom of the first inning. That was their only lead of the game, Drew. They had 4 hits, committed 7 errors. So I don't even know. I mean, let me see the box score. If I go quickly to the box score here, and I look at Brandon O'Connor, how in the heck he got on base. So O'Connor,
he had 3 hits. He was 3 for 4.
He had 3 of the 4 hits in order to get on base, Drew. 3 of the 4. So that means, as you pointed out, dog, that individual, for me, you talk about bro, that for me was number 3. That was my number 3. No doubt. That was my number 3 for me. All right. So
we've got 2 left. We've got 2 left that we've got to debate now.
What is your number 3 then? Let's try not to give away our number 1. What do you have as your number 3?
My number 3 would be what could potentially be the last BIAC championship. Once again, I was in the house for this one. First of all, let's go back to the first game. Delaware State forced the if game by winning 4-3 in the.
Hold on, rewind. You got to set that up better because when you woke up that morning, what did you wake up thinking? It's championship day, right?
Right, championship day. I believe Coppin needed 1, Delaware needed 2.
Coppin State just needed to win. Coppin State needed to win. First pitch is around noon. Win game 1. That's it. Going home.
It's it. Right. And they had game 1 in control until late. If I remember that, Delaware State came back and forced the if game. Now, let's talk about the drama in this game. There was a weather system in the area. Everyone knew there was a weather system in the area. Everybody knew there was no problem if we go 1. But when you go 2, and when you have 30 runs scored in game 2, because nobody has pitching. Despite the 30 runs, there were multiple lead changes in this game. And Brian, to top it all off, no one saw the trophy presentation, Brian. We know Delaware.
There's pictures of the team with the trophy though, Drew. So it happened.
Yeah.
It happened.
We know it happened, but Coppin wins. Coppin wins, This is literally how it happened. Everybody, you got to be there. They win. They come out on the field. You got the big pile up on the mound where everybody's jumping and doing everything like that.
Yeah.
And about 2 minutes into that celebration, they have to clear the field because of lightning.
In the area,
The rain was in the area. You could literally see the rain coming. They clear the field because of lightning. They clear the stadium, and sometime doing all that, they never even announced the MVP. They never brought out a microphone. They didn't bring anything out to the field because they knew they had to clear that stadium that fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so that's how fast that happened.
So here's what's interesting to me. You're valuing the 2 championship games in you're valuing the 1 championship game over the 2. See, and this is why for me, the MEAC championship game I rated higher than the SWAC championship game because there were 2 championship games. And it was the last. This is the end of the MEAC baseball as we know it because all these schools are off the partner with what the NEC, I believe. They're off the partner. So MEAC baseball is officially dead. There were only 4 teams that were playing. And they gave us an epic final that, Coppin State had to score 8 runs in the top of the 9th to win 18-12. Unbelievable. So to me, I put that game right there as number 2 for me. And then, as I said, I had the SWAC baseball championship as number 4 because I just think the fact that you had 2 championships in one afternoon and they both were drama filled. I don't know how, I remember you telling me about the game. I didn't even know it was on. And you called me. It was like, hey, man, we're playing a second championship game. I'm like, a what? Yeah, so.
I don't even think you knew I had flew
Yeah.
up there.
No, I didn't. It's funny you said that. No, I did not know you had flown up there for that. No, you're right. Okay, so all that said, looks like we have the same number 1.
Yes.
We do?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
I think we do. I think we do have the same number 1.
And this is by I don't know if this is hey, there might be a little bias in this because we were there, we were a part of this thing, or it could be
somebody made the championship call.
Oh well. Are you going to go to audio? Is that what you have for that?
I'll see if I can find it and cue it up.
Okay. Well, what we're talking about, our number 1 moment of the year was Edward Waters University winning the Tyson Foods Black College World Series in Montgomery, Alabama. We thought we would get an offensive game given what we had seen leading into the championship. Turns out we got a defensive performance. And then we got, just so many memorable moments there in the final innings from decision making. Edward Waters outlasted Kentucky State. A Kentucky State team who I think had to come out of the losers bracket to
Both teams
win.
came out the losers bracket.
Both teams came out the losers bracket. Yeah. So of course at the time, Edward Waters was still playing as an NAIA school. Now they are part of Division II along with Kentucky State, who was the D2 representative. So you had 2 teams that came out of the losers bracket that had played some great baseball to get there. And it came down to an unbelievable finish going into I believe it was Edward Waters, bottom of the 9th. Kentucky State was up. There were some interesting decisions made on the base paths. I talked to Kentucky State's coach, and he wouldn't change a thing. And I respect his decision to play it the way he played it, and that's what coaching is about. You try to make the best decision, in the moment, and you put it in the hands of your players, and you let your players either make a play or they don't. And Edward Waters ended up making the play. Did you end up finding the clip
No,
there
I
at the
didn't.
end?
No, I didn't.
Okay, yeah, no worries. But yeah, Edward Waters ended up winning Black College World Series. The second NAIA ace. Nope, take that back. Because year one it was Bluefield State. They're Division II.
Yeah,
So
one
Bluefield State
NAIA
Division
and
II.
one NCAA.
Yeah. And year three, we expect more excitement for year three, as the teams will begin putting their rosters together, beginning to play, and it'll be all leading up to a championship in Montgomery. And so shout out to Black College Championships. Shout out to Drew, yourself, my co-host Nick Strong, who did a great job doing the color analyst in that contest. Had a really fun time calling that game. Really fun time. You got me wanting to go back and watch it now, Drew. You got me itched up to want to go find the game on YouTube and go watch it. So yeah. Any other baseball notes that you want to bring up?
I think those are the big headlines for baseball.
All right. Let's take a break. Let's wrap it up with maybe some miscellaneous news and notes from 2022, and then close the show with our top 5 men's basketball poll. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. We'll be back in just a moment.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplify Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplify Development Services.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down. loot machine.
Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Happy New Year. Bryan Fulford here along with AD Drew. And want to encourage you guys who are taking part of our show to be a part of our latest fundraiser to help continue to grow not only Black College Sports Network, but we are a part of Jericho Broadcast Networks. And you can go to myjbn.com/grow, GROW, and make a contribution to help continue supporting the Black College Sports Network. You can also make a donation via our Cash App, which is $myJBN, MyBCSN. So if you're so inclined to want to start the new year off right by making a small contribution, we would greatly appreciate it. Every dollar spent is helpful. All right, so as we kind of wrap up some of the major notes and stories, miscellaneous things, as I've kind of listened to various year in reviews, the couple of stories that I haven't heard talked about, Drew, from 2022, and they both involve one particular school. They both involve, yeah, and that school is not FAMU. Let me say that the school
Not this
is
time.
not FAMU. Not this time. A lot of people think FAMU stays in the news, but I would actually say
It's
there's a
Jackson
school.
State then.
There's a school. Nope, not Jackson State. No, they're in the
What?
SWAC though. They're SWAC. They're SWAC. Yep, they're SWAC. How about it's Grambling State? Grambling State stayed in the news, and I tell you what, man, there was a period in the spring of 2022 that you had to look at things going on at Grambling State, and you had to scratch your head saying, "What in the world is going on over there?" As two different headline stories came out. I'm trying to recall which came out first, but I
Browse was first.
think it was okay. So yeah, the story of Art Briles being hired by Hugh Jackson. Of course, Hugh had got hired in late December. Then it came out in late January, early February, that he was going to bring Art Briles, the former Baylor coach, who was, I guess you could say, dishonorably released, fired. I don't know how, whatever. A lot of allegations were levied against Art Briles. Of course, there was some stuff that happened there at Baylor under his watch, which had people feeling some kind of way about how he ran his program and how, his thoughts or how he interacted. But Briles had actually been, working at a high school as a coach, was on the path to sort of rebuilding what he had spent years building up, which was a strong name within the coaching football circles. And so Hugh Jackson, being an offensive guy, I think was really wanting Art Briles to come in. Spring practices were starting in March, and he wanted to bring that air raid type system. Of course, Briles, the late Mike Leach, who recently died about a few weeks ago. I think they were all together under Hal Mummy at Texas Tech or somewhere Kentucky may have been. But anyway, Art Briles was well known. Unfortunately, his name was also associated with the scandal at Baylor. Well, as soon as that hire came out, one particular alum chose to make himself very vocal in how he did not approve of bringing Art Briles to Grambling, and that was Doug Williams. And he was very adamant in terms of even saying, quote, "I'm out." That was the headline in terms of his support of Hugh Jackson and Grambling football. And it was kind of head scratching, Drew, because this is the same Doug Williams who, if I'm not mistaken, at the time was working for Daniel Snyder of the Washington, formerly known as the Redskins, now the Commanders, who they themselves still are wrapped around all kinds of, still are just wrapped around all kinds of scandal related to workplace environment, sexual misconduct, all kinds of stuff, So, ain't nobody heard Doug Williams say he was out working with Washington. I mean, that was the argument. That was what a lot of people, I even said it. I mean, but look, that's what a lot of people were saying. And it was just interesting. And eventually Art Briles stepped away. I guess he didn't, it turned out that he was acquitted of any wrongdoing found by not only a college board, but the legal system. Everybody and anybody who legally mattered said that Art Briles was not responsible for what happened at Baylor. But he still stepped away. And I thought, and he stepped away like right before the start of spring practice. And I wonder, Drew, if he had not stepped away, what it may have looked like in spring, among the fan base, for not only Dr. Travion Scott, who was only a few months into the job as the AD, but also for Hugh Jackson, but just that whole fan base. What would that have looked like had Art Briles had said, you know what, Hugh Jackson says he's supporting me, Dr. Scott says he's supporting me, the president seemed to be supporting the hire, but our most famous alum or one of our most famous alums is not. Interesting, right, Drew?
Very.
And I don't see many people recapping and talking about that story that happened. And then of course the other story that even lasted longer and might have got more national attention than the Art Briles story was the story of former volleyball coach Chelsea Lucas, who herself was a Grambling alum, former Grambling volleyball player. She previously was at, I believe, Alcorn or Prairie View. She was at one of those two schools previously prior to coming to Grambling. You were going to say you had a thought on that?
I think it was Alcorn.
Okay, so she came over from Alcorn, and let's just say she made a big fuss and a big thing came out when she made it known that she was going to essentially cut the entire team, which is at that point I think consisted of like 19 some odd girls. But essentially what she was saying, she wasn't going to renew scholarships, which is every coach's right at the end of every academic year is to whether you're going to renew scholarships or not. And so, I think that touched people the wrong way. There was I don't know, Drew. It was one of those ugly situations that eventually she ended up taking the fall. She ended up being the fall girl, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Where she ended up having to take the fall. They did a review of the process, and they came up with some kind of statement saying that, we're gonna end up let me see if I put a note in here. They ended up relieving her of her job in July. She had been there for 5 months, hadn't even coached a game yet. So apparently Grambling State did an internal investigation, and they decided that they were going to part ways. And so, needless to say, Grambling ended up hiring a new coach on short notice. Obviously, the season started in August, so they let her go in July. They found a new coach, and it was interesting because Lucas had been coaching in the SWAC for 6 years at UAPB and Alcorn State. So that's sort of two previous schools were Pine Bluff and Alcorn State. And she was a Grambling alum. And somehow Drew she took a bullet. She took a bullet for the for the program, and it was kind of interesting. Grambling volleyball actually had a pretty good year this year. They had a pretty good year, so
I wonder how many of those were players that she brought in, and I wonder how many of those were players that she would have cut who were able to come back to the university who were the makeup of their team. I'm just curious.
yeah, that story, that among all the stories of the summer, I mean, of course, we had everything that was related to football. We had contract TV rights and all these other stories. That was the story that kind of, it felt like nobody really wanted to touch that story. If you notice, right? It was there. I know Scotty with off script, he touched it. He stayed on that story. But in terms of like other folk, I don't remember too many other people getting in the
Was it
muck
because
with that story.
was it because it was volleyball, or was it because of the gist of the story?
I don't know. I don't know if it was volleyball. I don't know if it was because it involved black women. I don't know if it was just a lack of. I don't know if it was just a lack of apathy. Like like we say we care about our student athletes, but did we really investigate and put forth what did we go all out here? And again, this again, Grambling was already in it, right? They had already dealt with the Art Briles stuff, and this story was just kind of hanging out there. And
Yeah. The only
I don't
thing I
know.
want to say in her defense, I believe she gave those young ladies enough time to enter the portal and find other schools if they would have chosen to. I believe that was a part of the timing, which was on the good side for her. Whether you agree with the decision or not, there was still the fact that the kids were informed in enough time to explore options.
Hey, think about the way Deion Sanders rolled into Colorado and what he told those guys in that room on his first day of meeting them at Colorado.
You bring up
And
an interesting point, Brian.
juxtapose that with what Chelsea Lucas did or didn't do at Grambling.
I don't see too much of a difference.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Except,
I guess
except for the sport and the gender.
and when you're
Just on
Deion
the
Sanders,
surface. On the
and
surface,
when you're
there's not a
Deion
whole lot of
Sanders
difference.
versus Chelsea Lucas, there's a you can do certain things as Deion Sanders that you can't do as Chelsea Lucas, right? Is that also the main point of the story there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But didn't
All
he do
right.
the same thing at Jackson State 2 years ago? Let's move on to the next story.
Yeah, well, hey. All
Let's move on.
right. Media rights deals, of course, were also a big story through the course of this year. You had Urban Edge Network signing their deal with the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, the GCAC. Um,
Among other
largest media
schools.
rights deal. Right, largest media rights deal in NAIA history. Urban Edge had also signed deals with Grambling and FAMU that would eventually lead to lawsuits against the SWAC. Also potentially cost former FAMU athletic director Courtney Gaucher his job actually he chose to resign, but there's many that believe he was going to be fired. So
I got
there's
two.
that.
I got two press releases, my brother. Which one you want me to put out?
Pretty much. Pretty much that's how that went down, right? Which one do you want? Which one do you want to go to? We're happy and we thank you for your service, or you are no longer part of this university system. Which one do you want? Your call. Your call. Man, that's hardcore, right?
Been there,
Yeah,
done that.
so hey, it happens, right? You also had the HBCU Go deal with the SWAC and Byron Allen's group coming in. And ESPN now you said ESPN signs renegotiates deal with the SWAC and SIAC. Yeah, they did renegotiate it to a degree to have more games included on their package. Although the length of the deal, the original deal is set to run until what 2024, I believe.
I think these were contract extensions more than renegotiations. I believe these were
Okay.
contract extensions with both. It was probably a better way of putting
Right.
that. And going back to HBCU Go, I believe they also signed a deal with the CIAA that kind of went under the radar also.
Yes, they did. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So right now the BAC, apparently they're in negotiations with the BAC, but the BAC is the only one without that big rights deal from either Urban Edge or HBCU Go at this point for secondary rights.
And going back to that word that you learned this year, duopoly, we learned that a duopoly as it applies to HBCU Go because they had created partnerships with independent television stations in major markets such as Los Angeles, New York, Philadelphia, Atlanta to carry their broadcast of HBCU games, which was a huge step um, in the marketplace.
Question for you, Brian.
So, yeah.
Have you had the opportunity to watch the HBCU Go package over the air in your area? Do you know which stations those games come on in your area?
No, because I'm usually I don't. I'd have the app though, but no,
Okay.
I
No,
don't know.
I was just curious because I have found
I
the
do
over
have
the
people. I do have people in Atlanta. My father, for example, has been able to watch games on the Atlanta station
local. Right.
and local, and been able to watch games, and he was happy. He was pleased to be able to see it.
Right, without having the digital packages. So, and I
Yeah,
found my over the air package here in South Georgia, where I live at, also which station that those air on.
right.
So, just
Another
curious.
story. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying I was just curious to see if people actually realize where those over the air packages instead of having to go to the Grio or the app or some of the other things, the ones that aired over the air for free.
Right. Another story that I think got very little play was Alcorn State. I believe it was Alcorn. No, Prairie View. I'm sorry, Prairie View. Prairie View A&M's athletic director being relieved of his duties by the president of the university. In particular, after it came to light that prior to the State Fair Classic, was it the State Fair Classic? I don't know. The team was supposed to get on a plane somewhere, and there was no plane.
No,
Was it the
there
State
was
Fair
no
Classic?
plane. I don't remember
There
where
was
they
no
were
plane.
going, but there was no plane. It don't matter. There was no plane.
Yeah,
I don't think it
there
was
was
the
no
state
plane.
fair because I think that was too close. It was somewhere a little bit further away.
Yeah. There was no plane, and that story. Now, again, juxtapose that story with the Florida A&M story at the beginning of the year, where they potentially weren't the team wasn't going to get on a bus after learning of some players that had all of a sudden had compliance issues at the 11th hour. that was pretty, and I thought how the president of Prairie View handled that situation. Perfect. The statement and
Communication.
everything that was, the communication, the way it was
Versus lack
said,
of.
man, talk about hitting a home run. It was beautiful. But what was interesting is the whole story was quiet under the radar for about 2 weeks. Almost 2 weeks until the AD was let go. And then you're like, wait a minute, would they just let the AD go? What just happened? I saw one of our good friends just post this question. Given all the, and this is EA here, so I'm going to be full transparency here. EA says, Brian, I see you're saying, but FAMU saga, let's start, the entire 22 was the #1 drama without a doubt. So, AD, if you
I
had to look
forgot
at,
about the nude photo. I forgot about that one.
if we had an award, I don't know what we'd call this award, Drew, but if we had an award for the school that just was our newsmaker of the year, how about that?
The Homer Simpson Award. Dope.
Okay, I get that, but I'm gonna go more
Brian,
so from a newsmaker.
Brian, the whole year, it took them the whole year to find the AD. From April to November.
That's just one incident. That's one incident, okay?
But here's the thing, Brian. Here's the thing. How many of these other stories do not happen if it doesn't take them 8 months to find an athletic director? Everything most of these stories stem from that one incident.
I'm trying to do
Now
the
the
math
nude
here.
photos, the nude photos was gonna happen. April.
Well,
nude photos was
good
gonna
and
happen.
bad.
That was just out there.
But hold on, if you're talking about nude photos, then if you're talking nude photos, that falls under the line of
that was just something that was gonna happen no matter who was there and who was in charge. That had nothing to do with
it. Didn't right. I can't contribute.
Right.
But all right, but let's call it news. Okay, but I think we have two clear candidates for our newsmakers of the year. I think it's clearly between Jackson State and Florida A&M. I don't think there's a third.
But Grambling would be a close third.
Grambling would be a close third. I agree. Grambling would be a close third.
I would say a close third. I say a distant
Southern.
Third. They would be a distant third. South Carolina State.
Why? What does South Carolina State do this year?
You had both. You lost both your men's and your women's head coach. You had your women's head basketball coach suing the school and just getting that, just winning that. You had your athletic director getting fired because of some of the decisions that he made, which led to both of these people being either fired or resigning. You had Buddy Pugh refusing to sign a contract until the athletic director was removed. So South Carolina State top 5.
You sold me. I didn't. You sold me. South Carolina State top 5. South Carolina State top 5.
I might be tempted to move South Carolina State ahead of Grambling. Now that I've broken down. Lawsuit. Lawsuit pushes it up there. A lawsuit automatically pushes you up.
I don't know if anybody was paying attention to that though. See, that's where I'm talking about the value of the news. Like the news wasn't that big.
Then you add the collapse of the South Carolina State football program this year as the defending national champion to top it off.
Whoa. They had one bad season.
No, I'm just saying.
I wouldn't say it was a collapse.
Well, they lost their last 4 in a row in the MEAC play. So they came in, they won their first game, lost the remaining 4. I'm just saying to kind of put the cherry on the cake for this year. you had football doing what it did. We know South Carolina gets off the bad starts in football. That's just what they do. They play their tough non-conference schedule. They get it. They get a bunch of money in. They go for
I would throw.
whatever, and then they win, and then
Okay.
they be
Okay.
competitive in the BAC. That didn't happen this
I
year.
would throw Southern. I would throw Southern. I would throw Southern in the ring of top newsmakers of the year.
Why?
Okay. Good and bad here. There. Sorry about that cough there. Okay. Good and bad. You had Southern. Why am I throwing Southern in the mix? I think you had the move. You had to move to Eric Dooley. You had to move to
But that was
Dooley.
last year. That was last year when he took that job. That was December.
Okay, but it was also this spring. I think the spring excitement of him.
They just had a bad football season. They were a quarterback away from being competitive. But outside of on the field with the quarterback issue,
hold on.
Outside of being competitive on the field because they couldn't settle the quarterback issue, there's really nothing there at Southern. All these other institutions that
you're right.
had
Okay.
some other type of drama.
Okay, I'm moving Southern out of the five. So let's see who's the fifth though.
We got FAMU. You got Jackson State.
Well, but let's start there. Hold on, let's start there.
You got South Carolina State.
Stop. FAMU or Jackson State? Bigger news story. Now, you gotta weigh the good and the bad. There's good and bad.
Can I? And I'm really you're gonna ask me to choose one side of the fence or the other. For mainstream media, the Jackson State and everything surrounded Jackson State, from the which water crisis did they have this year? Was he taking a bath in the pool this year, or was that last year? I mean, they've had so many issues there in Jackson when it comes to water. Just in the city of Jackson. Of course, everything surrounding Coach Prime and the move and the football season and all the hype around the football season. But that's really but when you come to those guys there, Jackson, there's no off-field scandals with Jackson State football. There was nothing else that wasn't really.
There's no off-field scandals. What are you? I mean, well,
No.
I mean, come on. There were. I mean, there may not have been off-field scandals, but there were definitely off-field or
the biggest thing was Mo Williams. The biggest thing was Mo Williams coming back to the Jackson area to coach football as a city of Jackson native. Football. I said football, basketball, but football. Some of that stuff was self-made with the promotions and things like that. That was all promo type stuff for us in the HBCU community. I would have to say the FAMU, everything at FAMU, it was almost to the point at FAMU as what can go wrong now. You had.
Have you forgotten?
You've
forgotten the contract, the Southern Heritage contract, pulling out of that contract. You forgot about that, didn't you? You forgot about that.
Okay.
And then what did that snowball start? What did that snowball start?
The fall off of that, I give you that one. But FAMU was almost what could go wrong now from the. Hey, we done signed this LeBron deal. Now that goes back prior to this year, but we signed this LeBron deal. We got this hot new athletic director with all these bright ideas. We done signed this contract with Urban Edge. We get this FAMU race car. FAMU was at the mountaintop competing for the headlines with the Jackson State, and then all of a sudden, now you got saw people coming after the AD and getting rid of the AD, which led to the whole all the support staff leaving, which led to the issues that you had in August. You almost lost Isaiah Ladd to the transfer portal back at the beginning of the summer. Everybody forgets about that. But he decided.
But
But
still,
he decided to come back.
there were positives
Then
mixed in. There were still mixed
oh,
positives mixed in with some of these negatives.
then you have the shellacking that Fab you took to Jackson State.
Yeah, okay.
To
59-3.
Jackson
You can't get by.
State.
You can't get by that. Yep.
18 person
then
committee.
9 wins in a row. Then 9 wins in a row.
18 person committee. To double that, you got the number of people on the committee to select this Tiffany Dawn Sykes as a new athletic director.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, I think she ultimately is going to be a good hire. But the process, and people complaining about the process to the board of regents, the board not holding the president of the university accountable.
All right, so
a lot of moving parts at Florida A&M. You only got a couple moving parts at Jackson State. I'm sorry. This sounds like a conversation.
You gotta be.
This sounds like a conversation for the ONG Strike Zone.
You got to no. Come on now. I mean, look, we're asking newsmakers of the year, and I seriously brought that up.
Oh, EA, good one, EA, good one, EA. Forgot about the band fiasco. Not being able to shower, eating on the bus.
Okay, the band still went to Paris. I'm gonna trump that with the band going to Paris.
I'm sorry, Tamara.
The band went to Paris.
Yes.
Thank you, Tamara. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate you, Tamara. Drew, you are dragging this out. I told you I'm going to take Drew's alumni card because I'm telling you, I'm trying to be impartial here.
I am disappointed in my university.
Hey, look.
I hold them to higher standards.
If you had to draw, okay, you know what we do, Drew? You know how we settle this? Old fashioned. You know what your mama used to tell you when you got to make a tough decision? You draw a line on the paper, pros and cons. So we're going to draw good and bad. We're going to draw good and bad. And we're going to say, I want you to think of all the news stories. This is your homework assignment. See, I'm a like you like to get on Doc's show and do homework assignment. We may have you on Wednesday's show. So this is your homework assignment for Wednesday's O&G. Okay. Good and bad, pros and cons, newsmakers of the year, FAMU or Jackson State. And we got to list out all of the good, all of the bad, and then let's say who was the newsmaker of the year. I think that's what we got to do. Because it's easily between those two schools. I mean, I think, like you said, right after them, you would have like South Carolina State definitely is in the hunt. I think Grambling is in the hunt, but neither one of them had the consistent.
Not all 12
none of them were consistently all 12 months, right? Every month, I bet if we went back through the news cycle, every month there was probably a story of that. There you go. That's how we do this, Drew. We go to every month and say.
At least 10 of the 12 months we go have
good or bad, right? 10 of the 12 months, good or bad, your school was in the news for something, right? So
let's move on.
Okay,
let's move on. Before we get to the final rankings, Brian, I just wanted to get some other news and notes out here. Let's go through some hirings, Brian. And I don't know if we got these out over last week's show, so I'll just go through them again. Mississippi Valley hired alum Kendrick Wade to be their next head football coach. Moving on in SWAC, Alonzo Hampton is now the new head coach at UAPB. Delaware State hires Lee Hull off the Howard staff to be their new head coach. Of course, we've got the rumblings that Vincent Brown will be the new head coach at North Carolina A&T. And if my math serves me correct, there's only one HBCU job that's out there, and that's on the Division II level, Brian. And that is going to be, did I bet Quentin Gray to Albany State. So the only job that's out there would be Morehouse, to my recollection. Oh yeah, of course Ed Reed at Bethune.
Ed Reed.
All came, and all these have come over the last 2 weeks that I'm going over right now. So a lot of new hires, and I believe the Morehouse job is the only job that's out there among HBCU land. Also, wanted to get this one out, a bit of sad news, actually. Oakwood University, one of our HBCUs in Huntsville, they're NAIA school in Huntsville, Alabama, for those of y'all who are not familiar with them. But they have had one of their assistant coaches, Cassandra Janae Strong. She was assistant women's coach at Oakwood University, and she has potentially been charged with murder in a possible domestic violence dispute. According to the records, she said she was in fear for her life, and that the person who was tragically killed in the incident had pulled a gun, and she pulled the gun in defense of herself. She is currently out on bond and has been released of her duties at Oakwood University. So we just pray for both families involved in this tragic situation. You know, domestic violence is never a good thing. If you're in that, please contact somebody, talk to somebody, get yourself out of it. It should not have to come to the point. Hopefully people can be adult enough and not come to the point where it has to lead to guns and violence in these domestic violence situations. So she's claiming self-defense in this, so we'll see how this one come out, and we'll follow their story. Hopefully Bo Carter from friend of the family WZDX will be able to get us some more information on this as this story further develops. Brian.
Well said. Well said. From the message boards, from the chats, Bethune-Cookman might be a school to put in as a fifth newsmaker, and again, just everything they've had to deal with and all the stuff that's going on at Bethune, that might be a fifth school to put in there. And again, just to clarify, newsmaker is not negative or positive. It's sort of a combination of both. Okay.
Did we ever put our Twitter poll up, Brian?
Ooh, you got me. I don't think I did. What?
Okay, we'll put that out.
What is the poll again?
The Ed Reed hire at Bethune will be on the equivalent to which other high-profile coach that we've seen hired over the last couple of years? Coach Prime at Jackson State, Hugh Douglas at Grambling, or Eddie George at Tennessee State?
Hugh Jackson.
So, yeah. So
Hugh Jackson.
I was just curious. We're going to put that up on Twitter. We're going to put that up on Twitter. Let that run for a couple of days. What did I say?
You said Hugh Douglas. I'm like, no, not the former Philadelphia Eagle.
Hugh Jackson. My bad. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Right, you know who I'm talking about. No, that's a different Hugh. Literally.
Yeah. That's a different hue of coach.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let me see if I can pull up the graphic here. Top five. Let's go to top five for the men. Men's basketball top five to start off 2023. We did. These are the latest rankings. The first rankings for the first week of the year. A lot of conferences. The SWAC starts their schedule this week, Monday. I think the MEAC is probably the following week. I don't know for sure. But we'll start with the men's division in the NCAA. Our number one team by a slim margin of points is Grambling State. Grambling State, 7-5 record over Norfolk State. Norfolk State, a 9-5 record. But as you'll start to see in our polls, we actually, well, I don't know, Drew. And let's be consistent about this. Are we going to include the non-NCAA or what
Okay,
you might call the exhibition wins and losses?
they do not count on the strength of schedule portion of the record, but on the overall record, we are listing those records this year.
Okay,
And
so
one correction to the graphic, Brian. The number 3 team, Central, is actually 0-1. Is one of those. I have to check that. I have to check that Central. I think Central's record is off on there as far as their conference record goes. But keep
in
going.
The standings, really?
Yes. I think they have played one conference game.
No, I'm looking at the standings now. Central's actually 6-7. So I think you're missing 2 games overall.
Okay.
Central
All
6-7 overall. Yeah, still have not played a
Well,
conference schedule.
Okay. Those must have been games over the weekend because I think I did this graphic a little bit early.
Okay. All right. Good deal.
Yeah.
You got Grambling at 1, Norfolk State at 2, North Carolina Central. As you see, it says 5-6, but actually they are 6-7. Tennessee State of the Ohio Valley, they have started conference play. They are 8-6. And now one correction, Drew, for Maryland Eastern Shore, they haven't started conference play either, but they are 6-7.
Yes.
That overall record
Correct.
is correct. But and in the hunt, Howard, who's 7-9, and Prairie View, who's 4-8. So 3 MEAC schools, 1 OVC, 1 SWAC school. Okay, so that's the top 5. Let's go over to Division II. At the Division II level, where they are definitely already in the mix with their conference play right now. Number 1 team, the Virginia State Trojans, 9-3 overall, 3-0 in the CIAA. West Virginia State, who I believe they're out in the Virgin Islands playing that tournament out there, correct? Or is that the Bahamas?
There's actually one going on in the Virgin Islands, one in the Bahamas right now. I don't know which one they're in.
Nice. Must be nice. 9-1 overall, 6-1 in conference play. Kentucky State comes in at number 3, 6-1 overall record, 5-1 in conference play. Lemoyne Owen of the SIAC, 11-3.
The most wins among any HBCU. No, second most wins.
And then, second most?
Among all HBCUs.
Is there somebody? Okay, so somebody's got. I didn't see it yet, so maybe it's upcoming. Virginia Union, 10-2, 2-1 in conference play, and in the hunt, how about Claflin? That'll be an interesting story. 9-1 overall, 2-1 in conference play. Winston-Salem State with a 10-2 record so far. That's another we'll be paying attention to. A lot of teams right now with some good conference records. Fort Valley State, 5-1 in conference. So that'll be interesting to see how those teams fare as the weeks play out. Let's go to the NAIA level.
And there's your team with the most wins.
Our good friend, Coach Chris Wright, of course, formerly over at Talladega, now has Langston unbeaten, 13-0, 7-0 in the Sooner Athletic Conference, just a hair over Coach Billings over at Tougaloo. They are unbeaten, 10-0 right now, barely. So that's an interesting race there. Philander Smith, whose women, I believe, were ranked number 1. The men are 10-1, 1-0 in conference play. They're coming at number 3. Dillard University comes in at 8-2. And then we have Stillman College, Stillman College coming in at 8-4, 4-0 in conference play. Xavier, the one school that's in the hunt. Coach Williams down there, 6-4 record. And that is our BCSN top 5. So just to give you a heads up, as I take a quick peek over at this upcoming week of games, the MEAC schedule will actually begin Saturday, January 7th. That's when you'll have conference play begin. You got a full slate of games. North Carolina Central will travel to Morgan State. Maryland Eastern Shore will travel to Norfolk State. That'll be a good game. 4 o'clock Eastern time at Norfolk State. That'll be a good one. South Carolina State traveling to Coppin State. Dell State traveling to Howard. And then, so that'll be interesting to watch for. And then as we kind of take a peek over at the upcoming women's schedule, still a couple of non-conference games still to be played. Chicago State traveling to Norfolk State. I saw that. And then the women's, they start up on Saturday as well. So those games, the women's games are the preceding 2 o'clock games, and the men's are 4. So doubleheader action there.
Edward Boyd asked about Paul Quinn this year. They are sitting at 5-3, and they are 3-3 in the Red River at this current point in time. There, Edwin. So not quite the season that they had last year, but they are still good. And a couple more wins, and you'll start seeing them on our board here on the top 5s also.
Tomorrow night in the SWAC, it's a full slate of games. All 12 SWAC teams are in action on Monday night. So you've got Jackson State traveling to Alcorn. That's a men and women's doubleheader. UAPB traveling to Alabama State. Bethune-Cookman, BCU at FAMU. There's a big rivalry. I don't know if the students are in town yet. That's a missed opportunity there in
There's a couple of rival
Tallahassee.
games like that. Couple of rival games this week tomorrow.
UAPB at Alabama A&M. That's in the new event center. That game is 7 o'clock Central. Southern at Texas Southern. It's a 7:30 Central game in Houston. And then Grambling State at Prairie View, 7:30 in Prairie View. So in terms of TV, I see there should be video for the Alabama State game. FAMU's game will be on Facebook Live. Alabama A&M's game will probably be on video on their YouTube stream. Prairie View A&M, if not YouTube, I think they have a pay site as well. Yeah, I didn't. You know what? Hold on. You know who I didn't say? There's only 1, 2, 3, 4. How many games did I say? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. How did I say Valley? How am I missing Valley? How am I missing Valley? You didn't hear me say Valley, did you?
No.
Something's not right. Okay, that's what it is. I said UAPB twice. So I don't know where somebody's not playing. Something's wrong here. All right, we'll figure it out. I don't think maybe because I see something here that says Valley playing Alabama A&M. I think the schedule matrix is messed up on the SWAC website, so we'll try to figure all that out.
Flip it over to the bid pages.
Has it correct?
Yeah. No, I was gonna say flip it over to bid pages on the SIAC level. Tomorrow you've got Albany State and Miles. When Miles travels to Albany State, that's a 1 and 3 o'clock start. Central State goes to Clark Atlanta. That's 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock. And I'm giving the women's time first. Edward Waters is competing over there in the Virgin Islands in the HBCU Basketball Classic. Time to be TBA. Lemoyne at Savannah State, 5:30 and 7:30. Tuskegee at Allen, 5:30 and 7:30. And Spring Hill at Benedict at 6:30 and 8:30. And the Benedict game and the Clark Atlanta game will be available on HBCU League Pass Plus. Those are your games for tomorrow. And of course, Wednesday, you've got the travel partners switching places. So Miles goes to Fort Valley, Spring Hill, Allen, Central, Morehouse, Lane, Savannah State, Tuskegee, Benedict, and Kentucky State and Clark. Those are your Wednesday games. And in the CIAA, they pretty much begin. Got a couple of games. Virginia State is over in the Virgin Islands. They'll be playing tomorrow. Tuesday, Virginia Union plays Catawba at 7:00. Wednesday, conference action begins back up with Johnson C. Smith going to Shaw. That's at 6:00 and 8:00. And Thursday, you've got a full slate of conference games. Fayetteville State goes to Lincoln. St. Augustine goes to Bowie State. Livingstone goes to Elizabeth City. Claflin goes to Virginia Union. Winston-Salem travels to Virginia State. And then, of course, on Saturday, you're flipping with the travel partners. So that takes care of the CIAA and the SIAC. GCAC, most of the GCAC teams are off this week. Will not begin action until next week. But check your favorite school's individual website for game times and action.
All right. That's going to do it for this show, this extremely full, long show. Appreciate you hanging in there with us. Contemplating memorable moments from 2022. It's been kind of fun recapping 2022. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of 2023. Something will come out of left field, and I'm sure it'll make for some interesting conversation for us all. I can't even make a prediction, Drew. I would say, hey, make a prediction on something. I've already said earlier, I'd love to see NIL be more talked about. I'd love to see more opportunities created in the HBCU space for NIL.
I think we're going to see in 2023 more creativity when it comes to media rights, media production, and streaming, and things of those nature. I think, especially with the collaboration among the four conferences, I think you're going to see more stuff come together with that. I think you're going to see more crossover events also between the conferences. Obviously, the two Division I conferences crossing over, and the two Division II conferences. Now, Brian, I've got to throw this out. Can I just put this out before we get off the air? The one thing I do not want to hear conversation of two, and it revolves around the same thing. Can we end the debate of Celebration Bowl versus playoffs? Can we end that debate this year?
I second that.
Can we please end that debate? And for those of you all who like numbers, because I'm a numbers person, just to throw something out. Why does the SWAC not worry about going to the playoffs? Yesterday's Sugar Bowl, Brian. You know what the attendance was in yesterday's Sugar Bowl?
Ooh, Sugar Bowl. Wait a minute, the Sugar Bowl.
New Orleans,
Alabama, Kansas State. I'm gonna say 65.
No, too
Lower.
high. 64-73. 6-0-4-73.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 64.
Not 64.
Okay. 60,000.
No, 6-0-4-73. You know what the attendance was in the Bayou Classic?
60,000.
You remember that?
The Bayou,
62-337. This is why we're not worried about going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
We outdrew the Bayou, outdrew the Sugar Bowl. So for those of y'all who want to have that debate, shut up. I can't say it. I can't say it around the kids at school because that's a cuss word at school. But I can say it on my podcast. Just shut up. So let's end that debate in 2023. Number two, let's we talked about this expansion of the Celebration Bowl model. Let's get what we got and let's do that. Let's get that right. It's only 7 years old. Let's continue to get that right before we think about expansion. How long has the BCS or whatever version of the BCS been in play? Started out as a 2-team playoff. Then it went to a 14 playoff. Now they're talking about finally going to a 12-team playoff, but that's after about 25 years of them tinkering with it and get it right. If I want to see anything, a conversation about an additional game, Brian, let's talk about a CIAA SIAC championship game in 2023. Let's start having that conversation on Friday night.
Okay.
In the Unity Bowl.
Love it. The Unity Bowl.
Celebration Bowl, Unity Bowl.
There you go. I guess my other 2023 pitch will be, and we're just as, I almost have to hold a mirror up to ourselves, but finding a way to increase our coverage of softball and our women's sports. You know, I think we have to find a way to cover it. I know it's extremely hard, but there's room. There's room for it. We just got to make room. So maybe what we'll do here soon is we'll kind of put out some notes or put out some flyers looking for people to help us grow our coverage of some of those sports that don't get as much attention, and we'll see what we can do. You know, that's about all we can do. You know, I mean, because we all have enough at this point, but there's room for more, and we just need some people who are passionate about covering it the same way we are with some of the other stuff. So that's maybe the one thing that I'll be pressing forward. So that's going to do it.
What?
Nope,
you know, I got to get one
I
last thing.
I thought that would do it, but nope, that's not it. Go ahead.
I slipped up on this one. You know, 2023 around for us here at the Black College Sports Network is going to be a big year for us, Brian. Black College Network turns 25 this year. Black College Network 25. Stay tuned for all of our listeners. We got there'll be some interesting things coming out. you didn't realize it yourself. That's like what? He got a driver's license now? That was one of them kind of moments for you, Brian. But that College Network turns 25, my brother, this year. So we've been doing this for 25 years. Well, I haven't been there for all 25, but you have, Brian. You and Roy have been there for all 25 years. So I just want to thank you guys for keeping this platform alive and growing and doing what you guys do with this platform for the last 24 years as we begin year 25 of the Black College Sports Network. And thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Well said, Drew. Well said.
Now we can pick the show up and get out of here.
Gotcha. All right, great suggestions. Thank you for you guys on in the chat rooms. Hit the thumbs up button if you would while you're there, and yeah, we've been married that long. Wow, that's well said. And if you only knew. My God, I love you. Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you for being a part again. You can contribute and make a donation. myjbn.com/grow.
How about $1 a year?
Our Jericho broadcast networks. Drew, you got now. Everybody's like 25 years. I mean, I I wasn't ready for that, Drew. You really caught me off guard with that one.
1998.
Really,
1998, correct?
Man, that just puts me in a certain place for 25 years. That's what really hit me when you say it that way, because I realize where I've been for 25 years, and wow, I am I'm stunned. I'm shocked. You really caught me off guard with that one, Drew. You really did. So what I was gonna say was
You
you
should have
can
heard when I
donate to
told
be a
I
part.
reminded our CEO about that. He
I
even
bet he
forgot.
was like, yeah. I mean, yeah. Jeez Louise. Okay. I don't even know what to say. You know, all the stuff is on the screen. Follow, share, like, subscribe, donate any way you can.
$1 a
Cash
year.
App. Yeah, hey, Cash App, $, my JBM, my BCSN. You can also give to the Jericho Broadcast Network's fundraiser. If you do nothing else for us this year, download the JBN app, follow us, the BCSN Pod Zone, like, subscribe it. If you do nothing else for us, all of that helps. Whether you give or whether you retweet, you share and like, we appreciate you guys, man. All of you. You don't even know. It means a lot, and I'm always glad to be able to do this with Drew. 6.5 years we've been doing it, so 2023 will be a good year for us. We're looking to do more with more, looking to improve some things in other areas. So you guys keep hanging in there with us. Let us know things you want to see us do, want to see us, and hopefully we can get more involvement with you guys this year in 2023. That's one thing we are looking to do, more involvement with you guys, those of you who are regulars, those of you who consistently choose to be a part of this experience. So for AD Drew, I'm Bryan Fulford. Happy New Year, everybody. Have a blessed and prosperous 2023. Thanks for being a part of the Black College Sports Network family, and we are out. Peace out.
Well, holla.
But earmuff, you stay on hard.